Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Brian with Games Under Pressure, bringing you a look at Rise of the Tomb Raider, a game I am so excited about. There's a lot to talk about here. It's really good so far, but before we get into that, there is a pretty cool intro. It's very short, but it sort of introduces things. So I'm going to shut up and let you hear that right now.
What makes someone reach beyond the boundaries of human experience to face the unknown? As children, we question the world around us. We learn, we accept, and gradually we lose our capacity for wonder. But some do not. The explorers, the seekers of truth. It is these pioneers who define the future of mankind.
The others, they're done. No amount of money's gonna get them through those mountains.
The lost city's up there, somewhere.
That's gonna be a hell of a climb.
I'm not turning back.
I know.
You should stay here with them.
Not a chance. Almost there. Wait till you see this view, Lara. Take my hand.
Thanks. Look at that.
It's amazing. But the snow coming off those peaks is a bad sign.
So there you go. It doesn't contain a lot of information. It just sort of sets up Lara's character a little bit. Of course, you know from the 2013 version of Tomb Raider that she is very tough and she is aggressive and she goes after what she wants. And I think that very short little intro does a nice job of demonstrating that and sort of reintroducing you to her character, even if it's in a minor way. And I like the fact that they just sort of throw you in. You know that you're in Siberia, you know that you're on the side of a mountain, you know that one little misstep and you're dead, and they just throw you in. It's a nice little tutorial section. So far, I alluded to it in the intro, so far, I am loving this game. I think this game is so fantastic. I've played a few hours of it now, and it is just getting better and better and better. The first thing you'll notice is just how darn good this game looks. It starts with the textures, and I think a lot of it is the textures. If you look, the textures are wonderful. So you can see on the rocks, you can see all these little details on the rock. And textures are one thing, but if you slap good textures on blocky world geometry, you don't really get a great effect. But you can see that the environment isn't blocky. It's not low poly. It does look very good. There are things like little reflections and sparkles in the ice. The blowing wind is a really cool effect too, that's blowing all that snow. That's one of the more convincing effects that I've seen. If you look at it, you can actually see that it is a repeating pattern, of course, but it is gorgeous in motion. Things like the tools on her waist that move with your inertia and move with your momentum. It's really impressive. As a matter of fact, if you turn the camera, you can actually identify which way the wind is blowing, which is pretty nuts. So if I look at my companion there, my ally, my teammate, whatever, Sherpa, who knows? If you look at him and move the camera, you can actually see the snow blowing in his direction, which is super cool. You get these really nice sort of volumetric blowing snow effects that you can see in the left-hand corner of the screen there. Overall, it's really nice. Lighting effects are wonderful. Clothing moves and it looks dynamic. Lara's hair looks really good too. If you played the PC version of Tomb Raider, that was NVIDIA Hairworks, and it looks like they pretty much matched that on consoles, and that was a big to-do about the 2013 version of this game, is her hair, and it looks really, really good here. You can see some neat lighting effects. The whole scene gets a little brighter, gets darker depending on the light source. So far, so good. I have no complaints about how this game looked. Actually, prior to going into this, I was a little bit disappointed that it was launching on the Xbox One solely for 2015, and I thought, well, you know what, I want to play it, so I'm going to get it early, but I would much rather prefer to play this game on PC just so I could crank up the graphics settings. But I gotta say, I'm really, really satisfied with how this game looks. I think it's actually stunning. Now, this game reminds me quite a bit of Uncharted 2. And it reminds me of that because if you played the original Uncharted, it was a good game. It was a really good 8.5 kind of game, but it didn't really have all the personality that was eventually infused into the series. It was more proof of concept. And if you play, and I totally missed that jump there, if you play Uncharted 1, you're like, okay, it's good. I'd like to see where the series goes. But then you play Uncharted 2, and they just crank everything up to an 11. There are explosions and these giant set piece action sequences, and they really crank it up, and that is the same feeling that I'm getting with this game. Tomb Raider in 2013 was a damn good game. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was actually one of my favorite games of the year, but this just sort of cranks it up. It takes everything that was really, really good in Tomb Raider and just cranks it up to 11 like Uncharted 2 did for that series. The climbing feels really, really good. A lot of the time with climbing like this, like if it's Assassin's Creed or whatever, sometimes it can feel a little bit stiff. And this system feels really dynamic. So dynamic, I'm actually, you'll see that I die a few times like that. You almost expect the game to overcompensate for your lack of skill in that regard, and it doesn't. And it doesn't because the system is so dynamic, which is a little bit, you can see I'm having a hard time getting used to it just because you do have more freedom than what it looks like. But it's really, really cool, and once you get it, it just sort of clicks, and it feels natural. It doesn't feel robotic or stiff like it does in a lot of other games. Now, Rise of the Tomb Raider's story, the MacGuffin in this game, is immortality. Laura's father was sort of a kooky guy, and he died. But before he died, he had found this prophet. And the idea of the prophet is that it was somebody who could heal other people. And there are some sort of like allusions to Jesus, but they don't ever actually say that. The game does have some religious overtones. So they talk about souls in the beginning. And there is a little bit of a spiritual component to this game. And it's sort of cool because typically that's not something that a lot of games would tackle. And this seems to tackle it head on. So I'm curious to see where they go with that, what they do with that. But it definitely has a spiritual side to this game. And even cooler is that I think this is, in a way, is Laura's attempt to connect with her father through basically finishing his research and going out into the field and doing what he was incapable of doing before he died. They also add some nice little conspiracy aspects to the game. So Lara isn't the only one that is after this prophet thing. Not the only one after immortality. There is this shadowy organization called Trinity, and Trinity, it sounds like they've been around for thousands of years, and what they do is basically control the world by, it sounds like, controlling things like this. So you don't really know too much about them, but it is really, really interesting. One of the things that this game does to great effect is continuously add new mechanics to the mix. So you'll find yourself in these situations, and they almost seem like one-off situations that probably aren't going to repeat themselves too often during the course of this game, but they make entire gameplay mechanics for it. So, for example, here you can see Lara just hanging from this rope, and they add this swing mechanic, and you can move back and forth, use momentum. The system actually feels really, really good, and you have to time it perfectly so that you get close enough. You can see I missed right there, but you get close enough to the ice sheet to be able to latch onto it. It's really, really neat. The animation in this game is phenomenal as well. So you can see that it very seamlessly blends these cutscenes with these disparate game mechanics, and when you see it all in motion, you can't really find the seams. I mean, it's that good looking. And speaking of the animation, there are just so many little things that I noticed that add to the experience. So, for example, if you're looking at a sheer cliff face, say, and you don't exactly know where to grab onto next, Laura will very subtly, it's very easy to miss, but she'll very subtly look at where you're supposed to go next. And it's this very natural head motion, but it's there, and it does help. And the game is just filled with little things like that. Of course, you have sort of the obligatory sliding down the mountain, but quick time events are really cool. What the game also does is there are various traps throughout the tombs that you're going to explore. So there will be things like a spike trap that is just a pit filled with spikes with something very fragile over the top. But if you step on it, what happens is time slows down and gives you an instant to hit A and jump off of the trap. So things like that, a lot of quick time events which sort of make the return from oh boy, and I screwed that up. Who sort of make the return from 2013's Tomb Raider, and Laura takes a beating in this game, just like she did in the original. And I feel bad for her, man. By the time she's 65, she's not going to be able to walk. She's going to have really bad arthritis. Took some really bad spills. And this game is no different. I mean, they really throw everything in the kitchen sink after you. I'm going to skip ahead just a minute or so and show you the intro for this game, and then I will be back with you when that is all done.
It is the greatest cruelty of life that we're all too swiftly taken from it. We age, we decay, we die. But what do we leave behind? Bones? Dust? What of the soul? Does it endure beyond our earthly existence? I believe it does. A truth lies at the heart of many myths and stories. A truth not of science, but something more profound. The key to unlocking everlasting life. I may have found the next piece to the puzzle, but I'm not alone in this search. They're following me, watching my every step. I know them by name now. Trinity. An ancient, violent sect with designs on controlling the future of humanity. I must proceed carefully for the sake of my family. If anything were to ever happen to Lara or Anna, I could never forgive myself.
Oh God, I'm so sorry. What are you doing here?
I saw the gutter press was attacking you again. I thought you could use some company.
No lies. Were you followed?
Followed? Of course not. What's going on?
I think I found the tomb.
Oh, you can't be serious.
The myth of the prophet is real. Dad was right.
Lara, your father was unwell.
No, he was close to a great discovery, tangible evidence of the immortal soul.
I loved Richard. I would have married him if he'd asked. But he was a broken man. I don't want to see you end up like him.
But Anna, he was right. It was everyone else who was wrong. The tomb's in Syria.
Syria? Oh God, Laura, no. This is madness. Get your life sorted. Go home to the manor.
You know I can't go back there.
But this obsession ruined your father.
I saw something. Something I can't explain. Now I understand what Dad was going through.
It's all fairy tales. Nonsense. Don't go down this road. You know where it leads.
It's the only thing that makes sense to me now. I'm going to find the prophet's tomb, Anna.
Hey, we're heading into a war zone now. We better be sure about this.
We're close. There should be an oasis in the canyon just ahead.
You're wasting your time. There's nothing out here.
Just keep driving, please.
It's your money.
Something isn't right.
Oh, that's just local militia.
You told someone, didn't you?
They paid better than you. Shit! They weren't supposed to shoot at us!
Get us out of here!
Shit!
No turning back.
All right, and there you go. Now we are in Syria. We traded the snow-covered mountains of Siberia for the very desert-like conditions of Syria. And the cool thing about that variety is that both of these areas contain completely different design sensibilities. So just in terms of the terrain, in terms of the tombs that you're going to see, in terms of the interior design, everything feels very fresh all of a sudden. And I do hope that that variety continues through the game, because I think that is something that would be a big benefit over the 2013's version of Tomb Raider, which, you know, even though there were some really, really cool parts of the environment, and there were some pretty significant changes in the environment going from, you know, like this beach area to, say, these deep ruins. So there were some really nice changes of scenery there, but this is very radical and it feels great. Now I'm moving ahead a little bit further to give you an idea of some of the gunplay. And the gunplay is pretty standard. It's not super difficult. It's not super different from what you would experience in prior Tomb Raider titles. The one thing that, my one complaint about this game, the one thing that doesn't feel very natural is the aiming. I don't know if it's a problem with my aiming sensitivity, and I gotta experiment with that a little bit, but it feels like small motions on the right thumbstick when you're trying to aim are either not enough or too much. It feels like I can never find that sweet spot. I'm either overcompensating or trying to undercompensate, and it's a very strange feeling. It actually feels like if you play like older games on an HD TV, that upscaling causes some input lag. It almost feels like input lag, and I can't quite figure it out. There were some really cool puzzles before this, some environmental puzzles, some new story beats, so they are really keeping things moving in this game. This is about 40 minutes into it, and I've already seen 2 different locations. I've already encountered different enemies, completed a few environmental puzzles, and it's pretty intense. I'm loving the variety here. So that's going to about do it for my impressions. So far, I'm loving it. I'm going to be doing a full review, full written and full video review of this game. Cannot wait to get deeper into it. I'm loving it so far. I would absolutely, positively recommend it. I think this is a wonderful follow-up. I'm really happy to see this game get made, because for a while there was a little touch and go with Square-Enix not being entirely thrilled with Tomb Raider's pretty massive sales. They were a little let down, but so far so good. My only concern is that this game is coming out on the same day that Fallout 4 is coming out. I don't know who planned that, but that seems like you're setting this game up for failure. I hope it sells. I think it probably will, just because it's such a good game. Word of mouth should probably carry it, but it's a shame. I don't know. It just seems like poor planning. Speaking of Fallout 4, we just published our Fallout 4 review. I've been playing it for about 2 weeks, and it is phenomenal. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. Let me know what you're thinking of Rise of the Tomb Raider in the comments below. Are you liking it? Do you think it is a step in the right direction from the first Tomb Raider? What could they be doing different? Let me know. I'm really curious to hear. All right, please subscribe, you guys. That is going to allow me to keep doing what I'm doing. I appreciate every single subscription, and thank you, dude, so much for watching.